The level of complexity for any brand, a product brand in general, in this day and age is really intense. You know, in the old days, you get a buyer, you get on the shelf, that's it. Now you have to manage your own DTC, you have to manage multiple marketplaces. All of that stuff has a different requirement, right? And then at the same time, you have to make sure that the sole marketing message translates into each of those different channels. Welcome to the Day 2 podcast. Today's episode, inside knowledge from the lady who makes marketplace e-commerce happen at the one and only OLLY supplements brand. I'm Jason Boyce, founder and CEO of Avenue 7 Media and host of the Day 2 podcast. With me today is Summer, Jubelirer, Amazon manager for the beautifully branded OLLY. Summer had stints at Commerce Hub, Buy Box Experts, now acquired by Spreetail, and Hydrolite. She also co-hosts the very funny and podcast called Always Off Brand. Summer, thanks for being here today. How the heck are you? I somehow managed to pronounce your name, and thank you for training me before we started.
I got you anytime. It's a confusing last name. I went from Johnson, which no one had to ask me questions on, to Jubelirer. Right? So
I'm
I
just
get
going to
it.
call you Summer Johnson now. Is that
That's
okay?
fine. That's
okay,
totally fine. I mean, that's what my Nordstrom credit card still comes through as.
Okay, there you go.
And Amazon boxes. My kids are always like, who's Summer Johnson? I'm like, don't worry about her. Don't worry about her. You don't need to worry about her.
Perfect. Amazon and me will call you Summer Johnson. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm stoked to be here.
So happy to have you on. I know we had some issues. You had a surgery and you had some things going on. I'm finally able to get you on the show and so excited to have you here. So,
I'm happy to put 23 behind me. A lot of great things happened, but my health wasn't one of them. So I'm happy to be moving forward in 24.
I hear you. 2024 is going to be an awesome year, Summer.
We could just stop comping to COVID years, right? Like we can stop looking at it. I can get that off my graph.
Yes, please. Yes. My gosh. You know, take what you're doing right now, Summer, and multiply that by 120 brands. I'm so happy to have that done once and for all.
And that's why I'm happy to be on the brand side and no longer on the agency side.
Oh, I hear you. I've got a lot more questions. You have such interesting perspectives working for SaaS company, working for agency, and now for just an iconic brand. So let's get started, Summer, with the first question. How did you get mixed up in Amazon and the e-commerce game in the first place? Was this always your plan? Love to hear more about your journey.
No, I was a radio DJ.
What?
I worked for Disney and I interviewed the Jonas Brothers and I was like super immersed in Disney Channel. And then I hated the job and I left to go do event marketing. So like I oversaw like a lot of fun different events that like Subaru would put on. And then the economy tanked in 2008 and everyone cut all their marketing dollars. I ended up doing like a small stint at Xerox and it was like pure hell, but it brought me to Amazon because I had to manage all of the resellers that people would go out and sell these Xerox machines. And I had to get them set up with their marketing materials and help create like different tools for them to sell this product. I got hooked up with a company up in Seattle, which I was trying to move to because my husband, but then at the time boyfriend, lived up here. So I wanted to move up. And it was a company, all I knew is I was an ex-Amazonian and I had to manage brands. I was like, sure. And when I started, they were like, yeah, you're going to do all the stuff on Amazon. I was like, yeah, but this is like a pet food brand and this is a lingerie brand. And this is like, I'm like, don't they just sell books? Like I had no idea that Amazon sold anything besides books. And this company, it was before Commerce Hub acquired us. So it was like Channel Advisor. That was our big competitor. So we were called Mercent. I'm sure you know Eric Best.
Mercent. Of course.
And you know Eric Best, I'm sure. It's a small community. And everyone kind of stays together. So like Frank Cochinash, he's doing things still in this e-commerce world and he hires all the old Mercentonians. It's very incestuous that way. But agency life is hard. Like it is so hard. And I just got really tired of it after about 10 years. And so when a brand came knocking on my door to be like, hey, do you want to oversee all of our e-commerce? I'm like, sure. I don't know what I'm doing. Never been on the brand side, but here we go. And it was this tiny little brand where I oversaw their email. I had to build a Shopify store. I had no idea what I was doing. I managed their Amazon 1P and 3P business. I had to do their social. I had to help with photography. It was a small company, so you just wore all the hats, but it was a great introduction to like what goes in on the brand side, which I just had no visibility to. It was like going behind the red carpet, like the red rope and being able to see like all the secrets.
What a great way to learn e-commerce, by having to do all of those things.
I was thrown into the deep end, Jason. I had no idea. I was like, every day I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm breaking. We're just going to go ahead and set this stuff up. I had to move the website from WordPress to Shopify. Again, I don't know what I'm doing, but it worked out. And after a couple of years there, I really wanted, I was older. I knew what I wanted from a company, and I wanted to continue to work on the brand side, but I wanted to be at a B Corp. Having been at a couple companies that had been acquired, I didn't want the fact that a CEO would change to change the DNA of the company. And one of the things about B Corps is you have to strive to meet specific demands of how you treat your employees, who you work with from a manufacturing standpoint, what's your impact on the environment, do your employees get paid well? I mean, there's so much that goes behind a B Corp, and I really looked long and hard. I interviewed for like a year before I found OLLY. And when I found OLLY, I dove in. I was like, I want this job. This is perfect. And 2.5 years later, I still love it. I wouldn't change a thing.
Amazing. And I use OLLY.
Yeah,
I think it's your fault, but when I moved, I live in Portland, Oregon now, so we're in the middle of the big dark now, right?
You need some vitamin D.
Yeah, I got the Hello Happy.
Yeah.
I have been in the best mood since
oh, good.
using that product. And the thing that's so striking to me about OLLY is the branding is absolutely gorgeous.
It's stunning. And they are, we cannot put any ad out there without like a dozen eyes on the ad. The amount of work our creative team's huge, and they're so particular, and I love that because I know it's going to be beautiful and quality.
It's funny. I went to go get my prescription yesterday at a CVS store, and there was an OLLY end cap, and it just jumps off of the end cap compared to everything else on the shelf. It's absolutely beautiful, and does the same too on an e-commerce and Amazon page. So you've worked for agencies, you work for SaaS company, you work for brands, a big brand now. I think you guys are owned by Unilever, right?
We are, yeah. I don't know if it's Unilever or Unilever.
You say tomato, I say tomato. So, from my perspective, what's so interesting, Summer, and why I was really happy to have you on, is you have a very interesting, unique perspective because you've played in all of those different areas. What should people who maybe have worked for a SaaS company or worked for a brand in our space, or, worked at an agency, what should people who have only done one of those understand about the other? What have been some of your key learnings through your journey?
What I have found on both sides is, one, if you've never been on the agency side and you're a brand, it shows. It shows in the way you communicate with your agency. It shows in your patience with your agency. It shows in what you provide your agency so they can also be successful. And I've heard, on people of different brands, they get so angry at their agency and they take everything out on them, but it could be the wrong person. Like maybe they just hired a bad hire. It happens. Or it could be the brand side's just not communicating well. And I think a lot of brands don't want to look inward and be like, what can I do to improve this? What can I do to make this relationship better? They just want to place blame. And part of that comes from internal, it's the pressure you're getting from your manager, your CMO to the CEO of like what you have to deliver, and making sure you look inward to provide the best tools so your agency can be successful is super important. And on the other side, the agency's got to respond in a timely manner. I just want to know, and this is like, I don't normally toot my own horn, but I was freaking good as a manager 15 years ago. I look back and I'm like, man, I would have never let this fly, because like you need to reply back, because we don't know if you've seen the email. We don't know how soon you saw it. We don't know if you forgot about this project. And what they don't see is like, we have very tight timelines and responses. The time of response is so important. And I do think agencies need to set expectations, though. I'm like, not working on the weekends, not being available after certain times. Like you have to have some sort of limitations on access. But if it's 9 to 5 on the West Coast, like there needs to be someone available.
Obviously, I'm in the agency business, Avenue 7 Media. And we talk about, we even put it in our agreements with our brands. There are certain key dependencies that we need from the brand in order for us both to succeed.
Yeah.
If I summarize what you said, Summer, and it's so wise, I think you're talking about a two-way street. If a brand comes to us and thinks that they can throw something over the fence and then have an agency make magic happen, it's very rare that any agency can do that. So that open line of communication is really important. And then also adding to what you said about that response time, it's really critical. And I sure hope our AV7 folks are responding to you quickly enough. If
your team's the best.
Okay.
I tell everyone your team's the best. They're kind, they're thoughtful, they ask great questions, and they respond very quickly.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good, because in today's day and age, Summer, you couldn't be more right. The response time equals respect.
Yeah.
Right. If you take days to respond to something that could take an hour, 2 hours, at a minimum 1 day, it conveys a message that you're not important to me. And it's definitely something that we spend a lot of time talking about over here internally at F7. And it's so interesting. You actually saw both sides of that story. It's why you're like an ideal client for us. We love working with you, Summer, because you've seen it, you know it, right?
Yeah. I think the other part that's really hard for Amazon agencies is Amazon does not react quickly to brands. Amazon does not respond. Amazon, you have to fight and try to, like, you submit an email and then you make a phone call and then you fix something, but then a reseller breaks it. And so you don't get credit for how much work goes into trying to fix a variation. You know, I might say, hey, this variation's broken. Can you fix it? It could take your team hours across multiple weeks to get it done. And if you're not familiar with how long this takes and the grunt work that goes into it, as a brand, you're going to feel frustrated and unhappy. And on the agency side, you're like, I'm working my butt off and you don't appreciate it. So I think agencies also need to share, like, we're still working on this. Like, there's the, yes, we'll work on it. And then the follow-up of, like, look, we've submitted, here are the ticket numbers, which your team does great on. This is what we're doing. This is how many times it's broke again. Like, we are doing the work. There may not be a solution yet, but we're trying.
You know, Summer, we talk about clients over here. You're what we call an ideal client. And it's because of that great experience. You know, now at the brand, share with our listeners, our viewers, a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like at a brand like OLLY.
So many meetings. You know, I was laughing. I had read your email. I was like laying in bed, which I always do in the morning. I shouldn't do this, reading my emails. And I saw your email about this upcoming show or something. And then I forgot about it till hours later. And I was like, okay, I need to find his email. So I like filtered your name. And I was like, oh my God, he wrote me back in like November and I never replied. Because like you just try to be focused in these meetings and emails just keep piling in. I think what's hard on the brand side is silos and breaking those down. So my day-to-day can often be like, especially for OLLY was a brick and mortar store brand first. So their packaging, you know, we're paying up the wazoo for our inners in our cases, right? Like, have to pay for it. It's not frustration free, but guess what? Brick and mortar stores want it in the inners. And promotions and how those work. I'm constantly needing to bring people along on the story of like why this is happening and giving people a heads up, like, hey, we're going to be discounting this item. Let me know if someone in your vast amount of different, like, we're at CVS, we're at Kroger, we're at Target, we're like, is anyone else doing a discount in the next 30 days? Because if so, this is what's going to happen to the price. And explaining to the team like what happens, explaining to our creative team why our DSP ads need to look different from our shopper ads and what that means. And I was used to, on the previous brand I was at, like, whatever I said I needed, I got it. And I didn't get a lot of pushback. And here, there's a lot of questions of why do you need it? This isn't the way we've done it in the past. Like here, and you're just constantly having to explain yourself. And I think we'll get there. I think it's moving along, but it doesn't help when Amazon changes things.
Yeah, without notice. Those are my favorite changes. The changes that happen without notice, and then we find out the hard way. But they're so lucky to have you, Summer. Honestly,
thanks.
I mean, it is. The level of complexity, I should say, the level of complexity for an e-commerce or for any brand, a product brand in general, in this day and age is really intense. You know, in the old days, you get a buyer, you get on the shelf, that's it. Now you have to manage your own DTC. You have to manage multiple marketplaces. All of that stuff has a different requirement, right? And then at the same time, you have to make sure that the sole marketing message that you guys have worked so hard to develop translates into each of those different channels. I mean, it must be no wonder you guys are in so many meetings.
Well, and I love when I get that, well, can't you just call Amazon and ask them to fix this? I'm like, oh no, that's I don't have a buyer. Like they're like, well, hey, can you make sure Amazon orders enough? Like we want to make sure they order enough of this product. I'm like, it's a machine. Like I can send a note and maybe my in-stock manager can do something about it, but not that quickly. And
yeah, let
again,
me just call Andy Jassy real quick for you and get that taken care of.
They're used to like, calling someone at Target, calling someone at Walmart to be like, hey, you guys need to place this order earlier. Here's why. We can't do that.
What a fun challenge for you though, as well, right? Think about the level of experience you're getting now to build on what you've already had.
Yeah. And it's really fun having money to do things. It is so fun. I got my budget for 24 and I'm like, okay, I'm going to set like this chunk aside. I'm like, I can just set money aside because I have enough for my search campaign. Like this is incredible. And what's been fun about being at a larger brand is the amount of different tests that you can run, different, testing Amazon Live. Like when I was at my smaller brand, spending $60,000 to do an Amazon Live, like that was my entire like quarter's budget. Like I couldn't do that.
It better work.
It better freaking work. And no one wants to hear like it brought in new to brand, but had a terrible return on ad spend. And, now I'm in a position where we are trying to bring in new to brand. We are trying to get those customers to stick around. So I get to test some really fun tools on Amazon that I never had access to before.
And, Summer, talk about complexity, staying on the Amazon marketing thread. There are so many different ways now to drive traffic to a storefront on Amazon, a listing on Amazon, an e-commerce store. I sometimes it takes my breath away. It's hard to keep up. I'm just totally always impressed and overwhelmed by the different ways you can do that. What are some of the things that you guys have tested with all this money that you're so happy to have that you like and that maybe surprised you?
Gosh, most recently testing Alexa Takeover, which is pretty cool. So like you have your Alexa screen and owning that screen, the amount of impressions and how it increases your share of voice for that day. And then the halo effect of that's been really cool to watch. You have to really time it, right? It's got to be the right timing, maybe have a promo going on. Amazon Live, we did an Amazon Live in March and it got screwed up. So Amazon's like, we'll do a make good for you. So we got our make good in the fall. And it was so hard to come together. It came together finally. And then it was like a rush to the finish line. And we did products that I normally wouldn't have put in an Amazon Live, but we were in a position where we needed to move through overstock. So I was like, sure, we'll just sell these. And I got stuck doing two people I never would have chosen. I would have chosen your 35 to 55-year-old mom who's into fashion and shops at Target. And these were two dudes. One was a tech guy, like his literal Amazon Live thing is supposed to be all about tech. Well, sleep translates to whether you're a tech person or you're a stay-at-home mom. Everyone needs help with sleep. And our new to brand numbers were off the chart. Our sales, I expected like maybe like a 0.25 return on ad spend. I wasn't expecting a lot. And at the end of the day, we got a 1-to-1. And I was like, thrilled. And one of the great things about being at another brand is or larger brand is that you have an analytics team and they can look at the past 6 months and then 12 months post live and see how you're doing. So I'm not quite at that 12-month stage yet, but looking at 6 months, those customers have come back and purchased more. So I never would have been able to do that previously. And then some of the stuff we did for Amazon Prime, we did a share of voice on the homepage, and I think we got 0.25% of 5% or something like that. It was so small and so expensive. But you see how strong being on that homepage placement, what that can do for you, especially, again, it has to be the right time. You shouldn't do it in the middle of April. This is when consumers are going to Amazon with the intention to find a deal and buy something. And luckily I'm in that price point where sometimes they just need another product to increase their free shipping or
Oh,
they are
right.
like, oh, let's just throw this in because like I'm already spending $200. What's another $10? That was interesting to see. And we did some of the things, speaking of like off Amazon, we do work with our shopper team. So our shopper team is overseeing like out of home, doing billboards. They also do our Google and our social media channels. And so we've driven traffic during that time directly to Amazon. And if you look at Amazon's attribution, it says this sucks and it doesn't work. You know, it doesn't, I'm not seeing great results. I've read of other people seeing really stellar results, but what I see are sales. And I can see that my sales go up when we drive off Amazon traffic to our listing on Amazon. It's hard to find the line of how much. So we need to look at like how much to spend, how much do we want to spend on this segment or this product? Is it, if it's doing well on OLLY.com, I don't want to take away sales from OLLY.com, right? We want those customers, we want those emails, we want those subscriptions. But if it's not selling on OLLY.com, let's test it on Amazon. I also have some products I'm not allowed to advertise on Amazon because Amazon doesn't like the word vagina. And I can't promote our vaginal probiotics. And so a lot of times we have to use our shopper marketing to drive to the listing. And we see results, but I wouldn't trust those attribution links.
You know, attribution is a very interesting topic, Summer, because I learned this the hard way. And I recently had we had a in-person meeting with a client of ours, and they had just a brilliant performance marketing person. And our team is managing all their advertising, DSP, everything. And it was like he was asking some questions, and if I could summarize what he was trying to get at, he's like, I want perfect attribution. Right. I mean, I said to him, I said, what you're asking for is a pipe dream. You know, I know that it would be cool to have it attribution, but here's your attribution, right? You guys are a multi-channel seller. You're a multi-channel brand. You need to capture what your ad spend is per channel and what your sales are per channel and see what those relationships look like.
Yeah.
It's like sales. You said it, Summer. What's most important? I may not know what the exact attribution is. The attribution link may not be working, but I know what's happening in revenue. And that and the ad spend combined across channels is really informative. It's really hard problem to solve, right?
Yeah.
You got a billboard out there. How do you attribute that?
Yeah,
right?
you don't.
You
Exactly.
But you know what it does? It gets you something that's absolutely critical for a brand, and it's called mind share. When people are thinking about a supplement, they see that billboard 120 times going back and forth to work or dropping the kids off or whatever. It will stick in their unconscious. And the next time they want a supplement, they're going to be like, oh, OLLY, they're the ones with that beautiful branding. I'm going to check and see if they've got what I need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
At this point, I think it's adorable when these super brilliant people who are 10 times smarter than I am say, I really want this attribution. They're getting really into the weeds. And I'm like, let's go up here. Let's see what's happening at sales and your ad spend, right? It just simplifies things instantly. It drives them nuts, but it's like, I spend a lot of my time doing that, right, Summer?
Yeah. And if I could save anyone time who's listening to this, I mean, I had the gurus at Amazon using their AWS, like creating the links, creating all this stuff, and they still weren't able to track it. Because what happens is people are on their cell phone and then it flips to the Amazon app and then you lose the tracking. So you are not going to get perfect attribution because it's like 80% of consumers are on the app. And so if they're seeing your ad on like whatever they're shopping on, let's just say like they're on Yahoo and they click on it and it takes them to the app and boom, tracking's lost.
There's so many different touch points that a brand can have. And I have done exactly what you're talking about, Summer. I see an ad on maybe it's Prime Video or Freevee or something. And then I go and look at it online and then I end up buying it from my app. And how do you attribute that? But that spend is important. And I'm so happy you got a nice budget to play with now to learn all these great new things.
It is fun.
Yeah. We're going to be at Prosper together. You gave us the thumbs up in March. It's going to be earlier this year, folks. So March is it 4 through 6? Check prospershow.com just to make sure. I'll be hosting the Trends and Predictions panel. Summer was on there last year with amazing stories and predictions, and we're going to have her back this year on the Prosper Show. So Summer, I'm really looking forward to that. As you look back at 2023, what were some of your biggest challenges and some of the surprises that you faced? at OLLY? Like I know when we were on stage last year, we were talking about 22 and some of those fulfillment curveballs.
Oh my God, you remembered.
Of course. I felt the pain when you were telling me about it, Summer. So how did 2023 look compared to 22?
Same fulfillment pain. It was a hard year. You know why? We went viral twice. We sold out what we sell in 3 months' time. We sold in 2 weeks. And then it happened again, like with a different product. And that one we were only out of stock for a little bit, but it kept happening. You know, one of the things that I don't know if we talked about at Prosper, but we are in a unique position along with like all the candy companies where we have to do summer ship. And what summer ship is that as the consumer, it still says ships and sold by Amazon. But what's happening in the back end is that you, the brand, are actually shipping the product and you are shipping it with ice packs. And every year it's just getting warmer. So it just gets more and more challenging to have this be successful. And I would say it comes down to inventory management and making bets on specific items. Because at the end of the day, would we have ever overstocked on the one item that went viral? Absolutely not. We would not have ever overstocked on it. If you're a smaller brand, it does not make sense to do that. You cannot have that much money just sitting in your warehouse, especially if you're a brand that's a consumable where it expires. Those are big issues. So speaking of expiration, we had a lot of items that were close to expiration. By close, I say 10 months. And at brick and mortar stores, they do have agreements that like you can't ship them anything that expires in less than a year. So then guess who gets inventory that expires closer to a year? I do. But you know, most of our products, like you use them in less than a month. And we also don't ship anything to Amazon that is close to expiration. So we do have some challenges that popped up towards the end of the year that were really fun to work with because it was like, hey, OLLY, we don't do discounts. We do it like Happy New Year. We'll do a couple of discounts, Prime Day. That's it. Like we are not a discount brand. And they're like, hey, you can discount some stuff. And I was like, excuse me? Tell me more. How much money do I have to do this with? And so we got to do some stuff in Cyber Weekend that we would normally not do. And we've never participated in Cyber Weekend because
really?
Cyber Weekend isn't like a, hey, let's go buy my women's multis, you know,
put
like
it in
you're
stocking. Yeah.
It's just not something people are getting excited about, or so I thought. Because we had a stellar Cyber Weekend. And what was interesting about it were some of the KPIs we saw of like new to brand and really looking at these tentpole moments, not as a way to get a high return on ad spend. It's to get the customer. And if you have a brand that is a quality item, people are going to buy you again. And you need this is the time to bring them in. It's expensive, but in the long run, it's cheaper. And if you can get them in, think about Cyber Weekend. Cyber Weekend, especially if you're a consumable product, it's 5-6 weeks away from Happy New Year. Yeah. So if I can get them to buy it during Cyber Weekend, I'm going to get them hopefully to come back in January. And then, you know, just the trickle effect of bringing in those new customers, having those subscriptions, it really helps set you up for the next year.
Summer, that is such a powerful message right there. If I could go back in time, back to 2003, 2002, and start a company again, instead of starting a company that was highly seasonal, that sold pool tables that no one was going to rebuy for 10 years, instead buy something that has a repeat order. I always joked with my brothers, if instead of selling home rec equipment, we started selling toothpaste, we'd be billionaires now. This model is amazing. And I don't think I fully understood it until I exited that business, jumped into the agency business and saw so many different categories. But the idea of getting a first sale to get that repeat business is magic. It's the closest thing product companies can have to a recurring revenue model.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think what a great learning for everyone out there who's listening, who has something that maybe isn't going to go under the tree or under the Hanukkah candles during the holiday season. Invest in that first sale purchase. But it doesn't work with everything. The reason why it works so powerful for you guys, Summer, is because of what we talked about earlier in the podcast. You have a great product. It is super cool. It is super sexy. You see that thing and you're just like, my God, this thing is like a work of art. I don't want to recycle it after it's gone, right? It's so beautiful. And so you've got to have those components. Whenever we like to say internally, you sell your product twice. You sell it at the time online when someone adds it to cart and buys it, but then you sell it again when they open the box. And you guys
100%.
have that. Wow. Like when I opened my first can or bottle, not can, but package of
can would be neat.
Cans would be cool. Let's bring back the cans. Happy, the Hello Happy. I said out loud, wow. Right? It was bigger than I thought it was because of the image, and the colors just made me feel happier instantly. So, I mean, that's how you drive that recurring revenue, and using those tentpole events is brilliant.
It's emotions. You want to bring out emotions. You know, when I first started at OLLY, I ordered a bunch of the kids' products, and my one son with like the sleeping gummies, he was like, "Is this for me?" He knew it was for him because it had like little sheep on it, and he like loved it. And then one of them is these gummy worms, which my kids love the gummy worms, and they're multivitamins, and it has like a picture, I think creepy picture of worms on it. My kids think it's the coolest thing ever. And if your kids love something, especially vitamins, you're not changing it up. Like you're sticking with it. You're like, okay, they like this. I'm going to stick with it. Yeah. I remember when I was interviewing, I interviewed at this one furniture company, and I was like, I can't go to furniture. Like, it's so expensive to try to get them to convert, and then they convert like once. Yes. Then you're done.
And if you're lucky, the LTL carrier doesn't damage the thing when they ship that heavy, big object across the country, right? I still have nightmares about that from my previous business, right? I want to check in with you with something. Because first of all, I had the good pleasure of being a guest on your guys' podcast with Scotty O. And he was asking me some questions. And at one point he goes, "Jason, you feeling okay? You're being so positive about Amazon." And
that's true.
Right?
That is rare.
It's rare. But like, this is my observation, certainly last year, even if I'm stretching back 2 years, and I wanted to see if you're experiencing this on the vendor side. It's definitely clear to me that attitudes have changed towards both vendors and sellers compared to where they were 5 years ago. And so I'm loving what they're doing. I'm loving the more communication, although, we still get surprises. It just seemed, they started talking about sellers as partners for the first time. Am I crazy, or are you seeing that on the vendor side as well? Do you feel like there's a change in the air where Amazon is opening up a little bit more than maybe they did 5 or 6 years ago?
One of the things they did this year that was game changer for us was to stop chargebacks when you don't meet a specific percentage of confirmation on their POs. So what we were running into, so for example, in June, they ordered 10 months of inventory on one item because they're like, it's going to do great for Prime Day. I'm like, it's not going to sell 10 months worth of inventory. Won't even sell 2 months. I'm like, we'll be lucky if we get like 4 weeks of inventory. But if I denied that, I was going to get slapped with this huge chargeback. So I was like, fine, we'll ship it. And sure enough, I didn't sell them that product again until like last week.
Oh, wow.
Because it was so much inventory. And they've removed it, I want to say, like in the fall, knowing that like brands know what they have in stock and how long it's going to last. They are better than whatever system that you have. And when you're ordering 10 months worth of inventory, it does none of us any good. You have to hold it in your warehouse forever. We don't have access to it. So now we have to produce more. That was huge for us. I also think with Amazon, on the vendor side, at least, it's very similar to your agency relationships. And what I was talking about earlier, you have to build those relationships internally. And it's talking to them honestly and openly. It's being kind and respectful and responding promptly to whatever your Amazon rep writes you, and creating a win-win for both, and saying like, listen, I we just went through Amazon vendor negotiations, having a clear outline of like, I understand what you're looking for. Here's what we're going to do to make your job easier. And I think that has really helped OLLY to be successful in the last year and have Amazon be a partner with us instead of more like a boss.
Right. So you're seeing it too.
A little bit.
All right. So I'm not fevering. It's good. All right. We do manage quite a bit of vendor now, and obviously I'm a seller at heart, as I was.
Yeah, you are.
So long. But I think this is a good trend, and I hope for both of our sakes, it continues. I just think it's good business to behave with partners in that way,
100%.
Yeah. Do you guys do connected TV? You doing any TV ads at all yet?
Yeah, we do a lot of streaming TV ads. I think what's interesting with streaming TV is, for the most part, they all do the same thing. The costs are pretty similar across the board, unless like someone's trying to bring you in and like get you to try them for the first time. The costs are very similar. The impressions are very similar. All the KPIs we're seeing are very similar. Where we struggle is with Amazon and their ads policy. And they have a very, very strict ad policy. And some of our top sellers were not allowed to advertise. So we actually have to go
restricted language. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we can't even have a bottle, our Goodbye Stress, which I cannot stress enough. It's a fantastic product, and the numbers speak for themselves. It sells really well. I can't even have that in a video on streaming TV on Fire. They'll pull it. We're not allowed to have it. We want to promote some of our women's health items, and they don't allow that.
Right.
And I don't know what man is running the ads at Amazon, but women want to see these ads, and they are successful on other platforms. So I wish we could do more.
I hear you. I restricted categories, restricted claims and information is definitely a struggle. What it feels like? It just feels very AI bot. It's Amabot.
Yeah.
Stuff, right?
It's like, thank you for reaching out to customer support. Everything looks fine on our end. And
yeah.
Like, but what?
I agree. I do have to say though, Summer, you have very good reason to have some frustration over OTT video right now, but I am as bullish about connected TV now as I've ever been.
I am 100% for it. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't saying not to do it. We're just using other platforms because we're so restricted. But the way Amazon this year has made it accessible to so many brands. I mean, you were at Unboxed, right?
Oh yeah.
When Tom's got up there, and so Tom's a shoe company, and talked about their streaming ad that they did. I mean, the video was expensive. The video, it was high quality, but the amount of money they said they spent was like $10K. And what they saw in return, like, it was super impressive. And if you are not doing branding, you are going to lose. You will lose. You have to do branding. You cannot count on middle and lower funnel, because if you want to see a $4 or $5 return on ad spend, we can show you that all day by doing remarketing and lower funnel ads. But you need to be bringing new consumers into your brand. And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose.
Back to the restricted category and restricted claims and language. Do you find the same issue with connected TV with like YouTube TV? Are you doing Hulu ads or anything like that?
Yeah.
You don't have it. Okay.
Yeah.
Got
Hulu.
it.
I love Hulu.
Got it. Great. Liz Lavalley, our VP of client growth over here, is an amazing previous seller, big brand owner at Vermont Teddy Bear. That's how she grew up on the brand side.
They were our client when I was at Mercant.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm sure Liz will know Mercant, so I'll ask her after the broadcast. What was interesting about what she said is Amazon used to be this bottom of the funnel channel. You had to grow and raise brand awareness elsewhere in order to have any success there. But you can now do it within Amazon
100%
ads console and DSP and CTV and radio.
And you should do
100%.
You should be doing it. On our podcast the other day, I'm blanking on his name and I'm sorry, but he was saying how Amazon has really become a top of funnel ads console, because where do consumers go when they want to research something, when they want to find out if a product works? They go to Amazon app. They look at the reviews. They look to see how it's shipped. I will stand in a Target and Google something I shouldn't say Google. I will search something on Amazon, see how it performs. And if I'm hit with like an SBV ad, like that instantly gives me confidence in the brand that they believe in themselves.
Trust in the brand.
Yes.
Absolutely. One other comment you made I want to come back to is that the cost right now is really low, but I don't think it's going to stay there.
It's not. I'm
telling every brand, no matter what size, get your foot in the door right now, because as linear TV ad revenue dollars keep doing this and coming over to connected TV ads, the cost is not going to be where it is right now 5 years from now. If we know anything about Amazon and the demand that's going to be generated from this.
What's great with running it on Amazon too is the data you get back. And and what you can use to like retarget and your DSP ads. I mean, it's just so helpful and it gives you great insight to who your consumer is.
That remarketing capability is not something that linear TV can do. And you can't target specific niches in the same time slot either, which is just like so magical that I can't even stop talking about it. It's amazing. Awesome. You just get it, Summer. Okay, we're going to end on this final question here. You've been co-host of Always Off Brand with my old time friend, Scotty O, since 2020. What's one of the funniest things that Scotty O's ever done on a podcast that just made you cry, laugh?
Oh my God. He makes me cry, laugh every time. He's just ridiculous. He'll go on these rants. And, oh, you know what? It was his, he did like a Christmas song. He's a Jewish guy and he's doing like this Christmas song. And he's like, what was it? It's like, hello, Venda. Hello, Mud. And like, he sang this whole song. I can't remember it, but it was just like, it was a Christmas song about, Vendor Central and Seller Central. And I just died. And he put it at the beginning of our podcast. And I was like, I don't know if we're going to have any listeners after this.
You know, the funniest thing I ever heard him say, I was cry laughing on the episode that he had me on recently. We were talking about AI, of course, because you can't have a podcast anymore without talking about AI at some point. And I said, I don't know. I'm generally positive about the good that can happen for the human race, but either that or we're just going to become pets. And Scott goes, wait a minute. That's perfect. That's what I want to be. I want to be a pet to AI. I want my meals a day. I want to be able to nap all day. It was hilarious. And,
I mean, it does sound good.
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
That doesn't sound so good to me, but give it time. That may grow on me. In the final analysis, folks, Summer's in charge of one of the most successful and beautifully branded Amazon businesses in the world. What an amazing career path. Summer, thank you for sharing it. Hello Happy keeps me happy. Please don't discontinue that product. I love it. It helps me get through the big dark. And, lastly, I just want to thank you for being such an amazing client. It's been our team's absolute pleasure to work with you on OLLY and some of those product availability and presence issues. And we're excited to see where this partnership goes. Thanks again for sharing this. Thanks for taking time out of your very busy meeting schedule to be here and share such great stuff with our audience, Summer.
Well, thanks you so much for having me, Jason. This was an absolute blast.
Thank you. And I can't wait to see you in March. We'll see you at Prosper.
Yeah.
Be there, folks. Come say hi to Summer and I when you come to watch the Trends and Predictions panel. If you're ready to start growing and protecting your brand on Amazon with a team of experienced Amazon operators, you can visit us at day2podcast.com. That's day2podcast.com. And lastly, if you know anyone else who would benefit from this podcast with great guests like Summer, please share it with them. Thanks for listening and happy selling.